Green, a nice green.
Light or
Dark,
dark?
a dark green. Okay, I have to say, I find this quite adorable. Maybe that's just me. Okay.
No, actually, sorry, I thought you were talking about the math.
I don't find the math cute. I like the math. I don't find it cute. So anyway, there he is.
Are you just assuming it's gender?
I think I said it, actually.
No, you said he.
Then I guess I'm assuming it's gender, yeah. I don't see gender. People tell me I'm male, and I believe them because I have, big muscles and I'm aggressive. But I don't see gender. Sorry?
Where though?
I hide them. I hide both the aggression and the muscles.
Well, I mean, everyone has
It's like my washboard abs under my substantial load of laundry. Yeah, that's right. No, the truth is, to be heavy, you actually have to have much more musculature. Like, it just takes a lot of muscle just to move you around and move your, keep you from falling over. Yeah, that's, it's simple math, right? Like, if you weigh 20 pounds more, every time you take a step, your muscles are moving 20 pounds more, right? Like, every single step. Like, think about it, because I remember when I was 100 pounds lighter, if you had given me a 100-pound backpack and said, walk around carrying this all day, I'd have been tired by the end of it. Like, don't you think? Like, I would have been like, wow, that was a lot of workout to carry that around. And now it's just like, well, I guess I'm carrying this around. Like, there's not much you can do about it, but you're working harder for sure. You do a chin-up. I mean, first of all, I'm not doing a whole lot of chin-ups. But you do a chin-up, you're lifting a whole extra 100 pounds. Of course it's how it works. How could it possibly not be how it works? It's simple physics, right?
Like a backpack with 100 pounds, that's all on your back, but this is all spread out.
No, a backpack is very cleverly designed. It has straps on it, and those straps. No, it has straps on it, and where does it put all the force? Right on your shoulder, and your shoulders connect to your spine, and it carries it down your spine.
But that's not all where your weight is now.
Okay, for the sake of argument, let's take that 100-pound pack, flip it around to the front, and ask if that's going to be easier to carry it around. Is it? You think so? Do you find that most pregnant women are really pleased with let's be clear, most pregnant women gain 20 pounds. And do they mostly find it has no impact on the movement?
No, it's easier than trying out your back.
I don't think it is.
I don't know that that's true.
I think it hurts your back.
I think if you offer the average pregnant woman, we'll take all the weight off your front and you can carry a backpack around, I don't think they'd see much difference or they'd take it. Anyway, I don't know. But I do know that in terms of that's definitely how the physics of it work. I don't know much, but I know some physics. Anyway.
We're done with fast pregnancy. Talk about Pythagorean Theorem.
Slowly getting stronger to feel where the fact that we're big enough to carry, basically.
Yeah, I think it's important to mention that I make no claim to have any concept of what it's like to be pregnant, and I assume it looks pretty stressful and exhausting, and it's one of those other reasons that, well, I don't see gender. It's good to be a man. It's easy. It's easier. Unless you're what? Unless you're a seahorse, in which case, yeah.
The man carries.
Yeah, in which
The
case.
one thing that balances it out.
Yeah,
In every single
seahorses,
species,
the
it's
males
always the
actually
woman that
carry.
has children.
I didn't know that.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That's one of those
I
crazy
wanna know
facts.
So
how the
basically
men
the
got
females
stuck with
knock
that
up
for
the males.
seahorses. Everything else evolved opposite.
Listen,
way.
it's like anything else in life. As a man, I'm just going to give you some. This is how men work. Ladies, you can pay attention. You can gain some insight.
Yes.
You probably already know this.
For all men.
Yeah, no, I do.
There's only 2 of us in this class. I don't think this is an even ratio.
I speak.
All men
Yeah.
in this class.
Well, listen. There's some advice that, as a man, there's some advice that the older men in your life will give you early on, which is any task you want to avoid doing for the rest of your life, offer to do it early and do it really badly. Right? It's like you get married and that's like the first. No. And they say like the first week, be like, I'll go grocery shopping, and then just come back with bizarre stuff and all the wrong, just everything wrong. And then she'll be like,
The guy I married does that. I'm gonna make him.
and then she'll be like, Oh, that was so sweet of him. He went and got the groceries. Oh, he's so dumb. I better just do this myself.
No.
And then he was like,
Without money.
don't have that job anymore. And then slowly or surely you just add these things in. So I think that the seahorse tried to do that. I think it was like, let me carry those around for a bit. And he just did it well. And then they're like, now you're stuck. Now that's your job. So the key is you've got to do it poorly. Anyway.
I do those things poorly. I still have to do them.
That is a horrible way to say.
What is?
I'm just gonna do really shitty so that my wife can do more work. It's just like,
You're saying that? Yeah. Yeah, you know.
It's not just women. We do it to men too.
Okay, no, we also do it to each other, to be clear. This is what having employees who are men is like. This is, it's bad. Okay, what am I doing here?
Drawing poorly shaped
oh,
squares.
because the female transfers the eggs to the
Okay, let's focus. So- Do they really? I did not know that.
really?
Not like during pregnancy, but they put it in the pouches and
Then,
walk around.
then the pouch closes.
Have you ever seen
Penguins
that?
have pouches? I thought those were penguins. No, it's like kangaroos.
Okay,
Fertilized eggs grow and develop in broad pouch of male. 5 to 2,500 baby seahorses are expected by the male.
How many baby seahorses?
This is like a flat.
So like, that's right. The male gives birth to the baby seahorses.
Like,
Yeah.
and like, so I'm like,
I knew that about seahorses. But what's this about penguins?
Oh, penguins. They don't give birth to them, but they do carry them.
They don't give birth, but they do carry them. That's cool.
Kind of evenly distributed. You go through 20 hours of extreme pain, I'll go through 8 months of moderate pain.
That seems more fair than what we do.
I like our situation.
Yeah, no, it's a good deal. Okay. Pythagorean theorem tells us what? I've done a little bit of very poor art here. But Pythagorean theorem tells us that for any right angle triangle, what is true? Yeah, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, which really means that the square of the two small sides add together perfectly to make the square of the big side. Good. I was building a physical model of this that involved water pouring from one thing to the other last night out of acrylic because I want to use it for my grade 9s. And I built it and I had it mounted and it was all good. And so I filled it with water and I built it so that like you can spin it and the water goes from being in this one and fills these two perfectly. And then you can spin it the other way and it goes from these two and fills that one. So I was feeling pretty proud of myself. And then, then I hadn't put the drain plug in it yet. So when I tipped it, instead of beautifully filling these two, it just...
Beautiful filled with feet.
Correct, yeah. It beautifully filled the floor of my garage, which was less impressive. That's okay. But anyway, so I had hoped to bring that in today to show you guys, and I did not complete it because I was unsuccessful. So who knows, maybe tomorrow, or maybe not.
Like how, what that might be feet.
Those are the two options.
Those are the two options. So, surely by now we remember this. We've done Pythagorean theorem lots in our lives. What I want to do now is use the Pythagorean theorem to develop something called the Pythagorean identity. And I'm going to remind you of angles in standard position. And this time we're going to use the unit circle. Yes, ma'am.
When you do like the colors and everything, was there a reason why some of it was purple?
Yeah, because what I'm trying to show is that, and did you ever, surely you must have in grade 9 or grade 10 done this with like craft paper where they make you cut out the squares and show that they're equal. Did you all do that?
No.
We
I
spent
really
85% of it not.
Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, if you had, what they usually do is they have you draw a triangle like this, and then you make a square off one side, and you make a square off the other side, and then you cut these two out, and they fit perfectly in the square off the big side, if you like cut them up. So you can put the big one here just as the same square, then this one usually have to cut into a few strips, and you put them around the side, and you see that the two small squares actually do add up to make the big square. I'm sorry if I think I've mentioned a couple times, well done. I think I've discovered a couple times that you never did that. And in the back of my head, I keep thinking, oh, I should do that with them. And then I keep forgetting. But it's no big deal, but it's just a good visual way of seeing that this, Pythagorean theorem is actually like, it's a physical reality. If you make a right angle triangle and you make a bunch of squares, it is true that the two small squares add up to the big square. Which is worth remembering that the crazy thing about math is that it actually either defines or describes, depending on sort of what your view of the universe is, the universe around us. The universe follows the rules of math, which is pretty crazy stuff. So we're going to use the unit circle. And we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. So we are going to define some angle theta on the unit circle so that it has I like green. So it has coordinates x, y, just like that. Now, because it's the unit circle, this side here, how long is it? On the unit circle, the actual arm of the angle we've drawn is always 1 unit. Very good. We're going to make that 1 unit long. And what I'd like to do is just like we did on the unit circle for finding the coordinates, let's make this. So we should be used to this by now. If we labeled this triangle with that as our angle theta, what would we call this side over here? We'd call it the opposite side. And it would be equal to, it's how high up we go. So it's equal to what coordinate?
Y.
The y. Very good. And down here, this bottom side would be called the adjacent. And it would be equal to x. So we've done this lots. We did this in our unit circle. We've done this in a couple of our proofs. But just in case we forget, let's then remind ourselves. If this is true, then sine theta equals what? Sine is always opposite over what? Opposite over hypotenuse, which in this case is y over 1, which is just y. And the cosine of theta would be equal to what? X. Good. I kind of went quickly through that because it's not like this is exactly what we did in our unit circle note. Did I go too quick? Does anyone want me to slow down and explain any of that in more detail? Detail? Pretense? Pretense? Anyway, would anyone like more detail? Detail, as they say in Tanawanda. Any more detail about this? All right. But here's what I'd like to say. What we really have then is a triangle where this angle is theta, and we said the opposite, the y, is just what? Sine theta. Where the adjacent is equal to x, so the adjacent is cosine of theta. And how long did we say the hypotenuse was in this case? 1. Perfect. So this triangle ends up being true for any angle. Yeah. Sorry? Yep. But I wanna look here. So if this is true, now obviously the triangle would look a little different if the angle was negative or if the angle was between 90 and 270, but the principle still holds. You would have one side being sine, one side being cosine, and the hypotenuse being 1. Okay, now let's think. What am I trying to drag you towards? What did we look at the top of this note again? After the puppy. The Pythagorean Theorem. Let's go up and look at it. Oh, look how happy he is. That was supposed to look. No, I'm giving him a text bubble. Look at the triangle. Okay, there we go. I'll do whatever you tell me to do, puppy. Okay, there we go.
He's actually shaking.
Okay.
Burn down my house. I'm not doing it.
Okay,
He
fair enough.
disapproves of your life.
Okay. What does the triangle tell us? The Pythagorean theorem says that if we add together the squares of the two small sides, we get the square of the hypotenuse. So if we make a square of the two small sides and put them together, we get the square of the big side. That's the Pythagorean theorem. Okay. Yeah, if we had to, absolutely. So that is Pythagoras' theorem, as far as we know. I mean, it could easily have just been like Jim Bob's theorem and Pythagoras took the credit, but okay. So with that in mind, could we apply that here? What must be true here then? You tell me. You are going to write down the Pythagorean identity for me, because you're going to take this triangle based on the unit circle and you are going to apply the Pythagorean theorem to it. So what would Pythagoras tell us about sine, cosine in this triangle? You might have needed to use Google Translate, but that's okay. I can tell you from experience that Google Translate does, in fact, translate from ancient Greek if you ask it to. Crazy times. Take a minute. I want everyone to do it. I will come take a look. Sorry? I want you, no problem. I want you to use the Pythagorean theorem. It tells us about any right angle triangle, right? But I want you to apply it to this triangle you just made, which is true for any angle theta. So we look at this. Is this all comfortable for you? The unit circle is one. That's the this. That's the opposite. That's the x. The one is sine is always opposite. One. This is cos is always this. This is x over one. So for that reason, we could redraw this triangle and say this line right here is really cosine theta 1. This line is the sine of theta 1. Right? Does that make sense? Now I want you to use the Pythagorean theorem. Just try it. Counting something that's always true when cosine is opposite.
I'm so happy. I did it.
The cube and the Pythagorean identity all at once. 2 for 1 deal.
With my award.
This is beautiful. Very good. Very, very good.
Aww. I'm just happy I managed to actually do it.
I see the puppy. Now what is the hypotenuse?
Can I talk?
Yes, you are.
I'm not writing.
That's the
That's
identity.
stupid.
It's not stupid. It's fundamental.
I'm not writing one square.
No, don't write one square. That'd be dumb. Because 1 squared is.
So that's dumb, but just writing.
Well, I shouldn't say
You know
dumb.
it's one
Saying
is dumb.
it's dumb isn't fair. It would be redundant. It would be unnecessary.
Yeah, no.
Yes, you have to because I'm sitting.
Yeah, make sure you watch the angle on that. You put that thing in the middle and all of a
Stand
sudden
up.
it's horribly
You can't
crass.
put it in the middle. It's impossible to put it in the middle.
the right way.
Unless you
Damn it.
Oh.
Oh, but like everything else in life, it's all a matter of perspective.
That's not very nice of
I
you.
have a question.
I would never, unless I did. In which case I'd mean it.
So much for now,
I would never.
can you do this?
I have I don't have many things going for me, but I have a 100% not cussing at my students rate. So far, so good. Batting 1,000.
If you want, you can take this.
Andrew has pushed the boundaries, and I've held on. He's pushed me right up against the guardrail, and I've kept the car on the road. You know?
What do you define with the guard?
I don't know.
Oh, you
Because
still
of Andrew's
have the
question, it's
circle.
not that far.
I'm wondering where my soccer ball puzzle.
It's right there.
They like that 50th most all the ones I know.
The 50 what? The 50 most.
50th most all the person I know.
There you go. Okay, so if we apply the Pythagorean theorem to this triangle, we're gonna. So let's get to it then. The Pythagorean theorem says we have to square both the small sides. So what's the first small side I'm going to square? Good. So what will I write? And would I write it like that? Where do we put the squared? We do. Yeah, that's the convention. We put it there. That's okay. Listen, if that's the worst you did, you're doing all right. So that's this side here. If we made a square of this, it would be sine squared theta. What's the other small side? Good. Cosine squared theta. And what do those two add up to? They add up to the big side squared, which is 1. And what is 1 squared? It's 1. So this is going to be true. If this triangle is true for any angle, then this Pythagorean theorem must be also true for any angle. And in more math speak, we would say that is true for all theta. True for all theta.
Also, that's kind of a museum. If you
Or what's she
have
saying?
one, any side at all, you can solve all the other sides just by knowing that one angle.
This is true. So this is your new identity. At the end of yesterday's lesson, really last week's, is that true? Monday's lesson? I don't know, whatever day. Yeah, Friday's lesson. We had identified 5 identities we knew. Now we have a 6th identity. It is always the case for any angle. That was disappointing. There we go. Okay. What are you doing?
Don't waste time.
That's right. So for any angle, it is true that if you square the cosine of that angle and you square the sine of that angle, you will get 1. Let's try it. Does everyone have a calculator? Did we get those? I will bring them to you. I want you to pick an angle. You can pick any angle you want. You can pick the angle 11 or the angle 37. Please don't choke yourself with the measuring tape. Any idea how much paperwork I would have to fill out? Any idea? Just think how inconvenient it would make my life if you strangled yourself with that measuring tape right now. It would be really awful for you.
No, you're destroying it. I feel
Okay.
good to get it.
Just for the sake of argument, I want to make sure we can confirm this. So pick an angle. I am going to pick 37. You can pick 187. Perfect. And I'm going to prove that the sine of, what did I say? Now I can only think of 187. All right, 37 plus the cosine of 37 squared is equal to 1. I'm going to check that, make sure that's true. Now, if you're going to do it in your calculator, you will probably have to say sine of 37, and you're going to have to put that in brackets and square it. And then you're probably going to have to say, now I'm not sure, every calculator is a little different, but my suspicion is you'll have to do that. What you need to make sure you don't do is say sine of 37 squared. Because what's it going to do then? It's going to take 37, square it, and then take the sine, which is not what you want. So make sure you do not do that. All right, so Desmos scientific calculator. Now it's got Desmos also, in addition to being the best graphing software available, has a lovely online scientific calculator.
feel like it's changed quite a bit.
You know, they should, because God knows I support them like crazy. But no, they've paid me exactly nothing. So sine squared 37 plus cosine. And see how nice it is? The nice thing about Desmos is that it always wants exactly how we write things on the page. If we take the sine of 37 and square it, and add it to the cosine of 37 and square it, we get 1. And I could change that number to 3.7. As long as I change it in both places, it equals 1. And I could have put negative 238 in here. In fact, I'm going to. And if we square the sine of negative 238, and there's my backspace. And there it equals 1. So no matter what angle we use, if you square the sine, square the cosine, add those two numbers together, you get 1. And we know why that's true. We've demonstrated why that's true. It's true because we can make any angle appear on the unit circle like this. And for any right angle triangle from that unit circle, we can apply the Pythagorean theorem. And we call this the Pythagorean identity. Yes, ma'am. So here's the deal. The Pythagorean identity will work for any angle. Obtuse angle, this or that. The proof of it requires you to make a right angle triangle. If you want me to show you how the proof looks when the angle is bigger than, well, I can show you right now. If you had a bigger than 90, say you had 137 here. Oh, so if this is 137, that's okay. You can still make a right angle triangle. Yep, it's just the case now that your cosine, which is down here, is going to be negative. And your sine is going to be positive, and this is still going to be 1. And the Pythagorean theorem still applies. Does that make sense? So it will work for any angle. It works for all values of theta. No, you can't use the Pythagorean theorem for any triangle. Remember that the Pythagorean theorem is actually a special case of cosine law, right? The reason Pythagorean theorem works is because in the Pythagorean theorem, cos C, what angle is C in a right angle triangle? In a right angle triangle, the side across from the hypotenuse is always, anyone? Right angle triangle. What is it? No, across from the hypotenuse is what angle? If this is, ready? I'm ready. We're ready. No, it's okay. Yes, very good. Yeah, so if this is the hypotenuse, this angle must be 90 degrees. So if we put 90 degrees in for C, what's the cosine of 90 degrees? Punch into your calculator. C, what's the cosine of 90? Cos 90 equals 0, which means what's negative 2ab times 0? Therefore, negative 2ab times cos 90 equals 0. Therefore, for a right triangle, c squared equals a squared plus b squared, and you don't have to worry about the minus 2ab times cos c. So the Pythagorean theorem is actually just a special case of the cosine law. It's just a special case of the cosine law wherein negative 2ab cos c all equals 0, so we can exclude it. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question at all, Alondra? So you could use a similar proof for any triangle. What you would end up developing, so a similar proof would have to incorporate minus 2ab times cos c. So I mean, that would work for any triangle. Obviously, it makes the math difficult. That's why we use a 90-degree triangle, because it's a nice, easy set of math. Yep. Okay. Now, we are going to practice using the Pythagorean identity. All right. Now, do you want me to just send you off on your own for this one, or do you want to do one together?
Can we do how many others?
I think I only put 2 on here, but I can make up more. No, you're going to do at least one on your own. You're going to do at least one on your own. Okay, so how do we set up any proof? Oh, golly.
I
I
have
have
like,
calculator.
I have.
You do have 3 calculators.
Only one of them is actually mine.
Okay. So here I want to prove that the secant of some angle x is equal to the tan of x times the cos of x times the cotangent of x plus sine x. Holy God, that's a lot of writing. First things first, I would like to test this on Desmos. To be honest, first and foremost, to make sure I didn't screw up, because sometimes I screw up. Yeah, sometimes. Other times I don't. What is the left side of this one? Secant of x. Great. And what is the right side? So, tan of x times cos x. Yeah. Come back to it tomorrow.
Ah, that's Friday.
Cotangent of x and plus sine x. Hey, I didn't screw up. That is its own little miracle. So if you look, these are going to work. These are indeed the same. Can everyone see that? By the way, isn't that kind of a fun-looking function? Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. Gaines, do you want to do this?
Yeah,
Yeah?
I'm an excellent. Oh,
Are you going to join in? Oh, they're lovely. Yeah, I pretend not to like them because I don't want them to get a big
They're so
full of
soft.
themselves, but they're all right. I like them.
Chelsea, where are you going and why do you feel so comfortable? You're not sitting in on a map?
Do you want a copy?
No.
You sure?
Look at that. It's too hard.
It's not too hard.
Don't hurt her brain. She's competing for us
Probably
tomorrow.
smarter than what-
I have never
No, but I'm not here tomorrow, so it's
I have never hurt her brain.
I've heard her brain. I made her cry this week.
Did you make her
I
cry?
did. She full on cried.
I was saying I haven't made a kid cry at Eastdale yet. I've had a couple in my career, but never here that I'm aware of, at least.
I didn't.
Maybe.
Yes, I did. But it still makes me bawling my eyes out in fitness class.
Is there a reason why somebody who's moved here from another place cannot get on Google Docs? Here?
Yeah.
Yes.
How recently have you joined the DSPN?
A few weeks.
A few weeks, so that should have happened. So no, there should be no reason for that.
So what's
Like you're able to log into these computers just fine.
Yeah.
No, like I'm able to go ahead, like was Danielle.Rumor at LKDSB because it's Lansing County
Yep.
District School Board, and then the password was my student number, so 3317
Yep.
4343, but it won't let me. Like,
Oh, they may have disabled
yeah,
your
they
account.
could have. Yeah.
They probably did. They have probably expunged you from their system,
But then,
which would unfortunately mean that any files you had with them would be
so my resume.
gone.
I will.
Yeah, which sucks.
Yeah.
Which really
So
sucks.
does that mean that?
But it probably is gone.
So does she need to create a Google account
No.
that's not attached to?
She will have a DSPN one.
Okay.
What I always recommend to students, because they're all going to graduate and move on, is it's a good idea to just your main folder in Google Drive, whatever that is, like just your main, the base one, share that with your private Google account. Because then those documents don't die. Like even if they close that account, you'd still have access to the shared files.
So I need a Google account that's not attached to the DSPN.
Yeah.
Right now mine's all.
Yeah, it's a good piece of advice. Because the DSPN, if they chose to tomorrow, they could like, that happened to me last year. They unintentionally deleted my Microsoft Classroom portfolio and everything was gone, all of it. All my files, all my lessons, the
Oh my
whole
gosh,
thing.
that would make
And I
me
had personal copies, luckily, so I had it. But if I hadn't, like they were
That's frustrating.
gone.
That's a whole year of work.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
so I'm sorry. Now, what I would recommend, likely, they may, just because they've shut it down doesn't mean it's necessarily deleted.
But if I shared it with like a teacher or something, could I call it? Could I message that teacher or something
Yes.
and be like,
You could do that, or you could even email the board office or an old teacher and say, hey, I no longer have access to my Google Drive from the school board, but I'd really like to go and get my files. They may be able to reactivate it. It's possible that they don't delete it, they just archive it. in which case they could reopen it. But that may not be the case. I mean, they may have deleted it, in which case it's. Sorry.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, everybody, for giving me a break.
Thanks for making me cry all the time, Miss Dean.
No problem.
There you go.
I really don't appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to do a proof here, and we're doing a proof with our newest identity, which is that the sine of any angle squared plus the cosine of that same angle squared will always equal 1, which we've demonstrated. So we're going to use that and the other things we know in this big ugly thing. How do we set up every proof?
Left side, right side.
Very good. Just like life, we like to divide things into left and right.
Wait, do we just pull the one side and wrong side again?
No. Good question.
That'd be a wrong.
Listen, Alondra.
Well, that's all.
This is I'm a liberal.
You said you were a liberal several times.
I've also said I'm a small C conservative. Figure that out.
You said that once.
I'm a member of the Liberal Party. Specifically, I joined the Liberal Party to vote against Justin Trudeau as leader because I thought Mark Garneau should be our prime minister because I think he's a Canadian hero and a brilliant man. Anyway, Mark Garneau, he was the first Canadian in space. He was also the president of Laval University and, McGill University. And he's got a doctorate in engineering and a second doctorate in something else. And he's a brilliant fellow, and I think he would have made a fine prime minister. So I joined the party to vote for him. So I am a liberal, that's true, but I more think of myself as an independent. Anyway, enough about me. When we solve the identities, the easiest way to approach them is to make everything in terms of what? Fantastic, sine and cosine. So what can I do with this? There's not much I can do with this, but can I put this in terms of sine or cosine? Yeah, because what do we know about the secant of x? It's 1 over cosine of x. Okay, so let's take a look. Is there anything more that I can do with that, do you think? What else would you do? Okay, so we're going to say that probably we're done with the left side. For now. Might have to come back, might have to change it. So, if we're done with the left side, it makes sense to move on to the right side. Okay. Why am I writing so big? That's the real question.
It was so, yeah, but it was so complicated.
Okay, here we go. What do you do here? What would you do here?
Switch the cotangent.
Okay, so we could deal with cotangent. Okay. Okay, let's, there's a lot of ways to approach this. For the moment, I'm going to leave tan alone. You're right that we could do it, and it would be just as right. But just because she mentioned cotangent, let's do that first. So let's say tan x. Now, we have cos x, and then what is cotangent? It is 1 over tan x, which is one way to think of it. But can we put it directly into sine and cos? Yeah, cotangent is what? Okay, perfect. So let's do that. It is the cosine of x over sine of x. Okay. And then over here we have plus. Okay. What? They're both on the top. Now what we could do is we could make that cosine No, what's cosine times cosine? Yeah, so we could maybe do that. Make that cosine squared x over sine x. Okay, I like that. You all right? I'm sorry. Okay, so we could do that if we like. What about tan x? What can we do with that? I would kind of say, yeah, maybe before we do that, what do you do with something multiplied by a bracket? Yeah, distribute it. So we're going to do tan x times this and tan x times this, right? Okay, don't worry, I have faith in us. So we're going to end up with tan x times this fraction, right? Plus what? I wonder if I've led us down the wrong path here. Whatever, if I have, that's fun too. Yeah, we could. We'll take a break after this one. This one's tricky. I think we'll get there. I think I feel good about this. I don't know if we're going down the easiest path. Sometimes you take the longer road. Yes, thank you. Okay, what is tan? Sine over cosine. Okay, let's take a look. So, okay, plus what? Plus sine over cosine. Okay. Times sine x, and I'm just going to put that over 1, just so it looks like a fraction. Does that make sense? Okay, now here, what can we cancel? Yeah? Okay, I could. You're totally right. Except let's look over here. What do we see on the bottom? Cosine x on the bottom. So do I want to get rid of that cosine x on the bottom? No, I could. I totally could. You're right. This one cancels with that one. But let's actually leave this one. Let's leave it alone. What else could I cancel? The sine. The sine we can cancel. Let's cancel that sine and that sine. Anything else? Because now, here's the deal. If I cancel the cosine, I don't have a common denominator, do I? But if I leave the cosine, now what do I have between these two fractions? Yeah, cosine is a common denominator and then stuff on top. So let's take a look. What's left on the left side? Cosine squared x over cosine. And on the right, sine squared x over cosine. And if I have a common denominator, I can write it as 1 full fraction. Beautiful. And what can I do now? What do we notice now? The new thing we're always going to be on the lookout for. What do we know about this? That always equals 1. That makes sense? That's our new discovery. Our new discovery is that this always equals 1. That's the Pythagorean identity, which means that the next line of this will be 1 over the cosine of x. Very good. Now, do you think you could have done that all on your own?
No.
I think you could. I think you could. I think you could. No, I really do. I would tell you if I didn't. Admittedly, I wish I'd left a bit more space for you to do it. I'm glad you made a bunny. Don't know if that's especially pertinent to what we're doing right now, but are you two all right? I think you are. I think you're okay. So here's the good news. For today, I want to do just one more question. Just one more, but I want you to do it. Oh, first of all, how do we end any of these? We do. Quad erat demonstrandum. You know, you could just leave. Like, I'd mark you absent, but like, that's all I'd do. Like, you just leave. And I'd probably forget, if I'm being honest. I'm just saying. You don't necessarily have to light anything on fire. And by the way, just ready, this is one of those notes. Comment. I spent years doing health and safety in industry. And then I was the health and safety rep at my last place, teach chemistry, so I was teaching women. Just little pro tip. Ready? Pro tip. If you're going to light something on fire to get out of school, don't wrap it around yourself first. Okay, can we just set that as one of the preconditions? Okay, so you're going to light this thing on fire to start a fire so you can get out of the building. Don't surround yourself in it. You know, I'm sure I've told you this story about my kid lighting his own pants on fire.
No, that's actually when you have it.
Oh, so the first day I ever supplied for a science class, which was like my third day ever supplying, was for a teacher whom somebody had told, like, hey, Orlando's a science teacher. And it was a grade 10 essential science class at 40 people. And so they left. So he emailed me. He said, would you be comfortable doing a lab with these guys? And I said, sure, yeah, I'd love to. That'd be great. So he sent me the information on the lab, and that looks great. And it had stations and this or that. So I got to front of the class, and I gave my instructions, and kids were like looking at anything but me and distracted. Oh, gosh, this is going to be one of those days, is it? Third day in, I'm already imagining what those days are like. So we started doing the lab. And about 2 minutes into the lab, I hear glass smashing. I look over, and these two kids are just intentionally taking glass and smashing it in the sink. I'm like, what is going on here? Who does that, right? So I go over, and I'm dealing with these two clowns. We're like, ah. So I was like, okay, like, you can't be smashing glass because that costs money and isn't safe, and also just kind of isn't a thing that people do. Like, who does that? So I'm having this conversation. And as I'm having that conversation, I look, and two kids have put condoms over. You know how like in the lab they have like the goosenecked water spouts, and then they have like the little valve there, and so they've put a condom over that, so that makes a pretty nice tight seal. And they were filling them to make water balloons. So while I'm telling the kids not to smash glass on purpose, these guys are making large condom water balloons of various shapes and dimensions and configurations. Yeah, no, and we teach safety. That's good. So now I'm like, hey, could you please not make condom water balloons? So while I'm doing that, the two kids have resumed smashing glass on purpose in the sink. And then to cap it all off, I looked over, and this kid actually has his leg up on the lab bench and a Bunsen burner under it, and he is attempting to ignite his own pants. Now, the temptation to let him was real. You know, like, there's this part of you that just wants to think, like, let's see how this plays out, right? The good thing is they had lots of condoms full of water that they could have thrown at him or something. But obviously the better angels of our nature shine through. And I said, could you please stop attempting to? So then I had to say, like, you know what, this isn't working. You know, I'm going to take a little bit of the responsibility. I'm going to put most of it on you. Let's maybe just gather in the center and I'll demonstrate the lab. So I demonstrated the lab, and nobody caught fire, and no more glassware was intentionally broken. And I went home a little broken, you know? A little bit of my faith in humanity died that day. But I've been slowly nursing it back to health. So, anyway. I love you guys. Listen, all joking aside, you guys are lovely. No, that's the only time I'm probably going to say that. I don't like any of you. Let's move on. So, I want you to try the next one. I want you to try the next one. It's a little bit easy. It's a little bit easier than the previous one.
Easier?
Yep, it's a little bit easier than the previous one. I faked it.
I always like
I don't know
hope that I'll get
anything,
like a super
anything.
straight line by the
Sorry?
this, and then I never.
All hope.
What'd you say? You're being sassy?
Yeah.
Don't be sassy.
Just gonna land a.
Yeah.
Make it work.
Wow, I can't even get the puzzle and you're now using the puzzle to make art.
Do you want the puzzle there? Oh, I'm
Probably not.
taking this.
That's fine.
Oh God.
What did I do?
It's always happening.
You broke it. Oh, wait, no, I got it.
Oh shit.
Oh, a hole. That's part of the puzzle. I don't know. It's not a hole. Dear Mr. Orlando, you can type it in.
The problem with that one is not only do I not know how to do it, I don't even have a clue.
I never did. I can get a part number that too. You didn't take it that much apart either, though. Oh, red hole.
You all right?
He tried to trust me with water in her mouth.
What are you doing to me?
I
Want to share?
I'm just kidding.
Or the half of floor. When I borrowed it, open it back later.
I don't think you need to do that.
But don't the cosines just cancel each other out?
That's like, if you gave that to a colorblind person, could they possibly think that that's a legal scheme? Like a full-on colorblind person?
No.
My
God.
understanding of color blindness
I
is
know
that
the
they
way.
cannot differentiate between just two colors, right? Is it red, green? So they
It's
I don't even know.
It depends. Some people completely see black and white.
is that, I
Even
just,
if they didn't do
No, but, like,
it would
standard,
still look
like,
like
color
a
blind
pressure
is also-
plate, not a
Tell
plate.
us like you touch it that.
Because every
it's
shade has
also the
like
different
slightly different
Yeah.
tone of gray.
and like it doesn't rotate with the, I guess if they were just looking at it. Because when they went to like,
Bless you.
Love you. Now you can
Yeah.
touch the lip right and then touch the lip.
Don't break it. I mean,
I'm
there's
not breaking it, don't criticize, don't criticize. Be upset. Yeah,
It's so
that's my
fun.
job. Nice.
What point?
Offensive what he thinks. He broke it.
No, I'm learning. It is actually capable of much more flexibility than I thought. Okay. Okay, that's okay. No,
Let's go far.
I'm gonna need it. Full disclosure.
Don't worry, that did not take me 15 minutes.
This person. Just go away.
Yes.
I don't know if I did or not. I mean, I'm not
That's it.
done, but I don't know.
So here we're saying cos x divided by secant x. Secant x is what?
Yeah, like, I don't know.
1 over cos.
Yeah.
So these are cos squared x. Beautiful. Okay. So here's secant x.
So many fractions.
Yeah. So then you said secant x. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, what is it?
You have 1 minus whatever that is, right?
Bracket.
I think you're doing.
Exponents.
I think you're doing all right.
Then I wouldn't get the same answer.
Well, so this is going to simplify it, and then see, you're right. You're going to get a different answer, and it's going to lead us to the culmination, the final.
How would I simplify that?
Well, let's take a look. Cos and cos cancel to give us. Yeah, so we're just left with the
One.
1. So 1. And what cancels here? So we're going to get 1 minus.
But those are the bad.
And then what's over here? So the cosines cancel, but we still have
Am I that
sine squared x. So 1 minus sine squared x.
okay, if I care that
1 minus sine squared x. That's good. Now, go back up here. If this is true, could we rearrange this? Of course, the answer is yes. Just leave it there, because that's a great stopping spot. So the trick now is, Avery, you've done all the hard work. The thing that remains is actually pretty easy. Let's take a look here. So if sine plus cos equals 1, if I wanted to get sine by itself, what could I say? Sine squared x, or sine squared theta, would equal, what would I have to do to get rid of this? Well, just algebra, like nothing to do with sine or cos. If I want to get rid of, if this was a 2, if it was sine plus 2 equals 1, I'd have to subtract 2, right? And I'd subtract it from the other side. So it would equal 1 minus, cos squared theta. And if I wanted to get cos by itself, then I could say this must equal 1 minus sine squared theta. Does that make sense? So that's good. So that was the whole point of this, was to sort of get this extension of it. You got there much quicker than I thought you would. I was getting ready to interrupt later. These are what we call the corollaries of the identity we know. They're the things that must be true if it's true. Do you really?
No.
Okay. Well, I don't know. It sounded impressive.
My brother.
Why would you lie to me?
I'm a black belt in lying.
I see that. Wow. Did they give belts for that? All right, fair enough. Wow. I've never felt so betrayed. All right, let's take a look. Let's see if we can go through this together. So first of all, how do we approach any... Well, let's do the left side here. I know it's not the easier side, but let's do the left side. We're going to get down so it's just sine and cos. So we're going to say secant x times cos x minus cos x times sine squared x. Okay. Just on this side, what would you do next? What do you think? What about it? Break it down to what? One over cosine? Okay, that is totally okay. And it's going to be multiplied by cosine of x minus cosine of x times sine squared x, right? Okay, what would you do with it next? Well, there's other ways to do it. Did you distribute the secant x? Yeah, that's fine. You can do that. Yeah, you're good, but you lost something. But you're good. Nothing wrong with that. So now, what would we have to do with this? This is outside a bracket. What do we do? Distribute it by both. Okay, so let's do that. What do we get for the first one? 1 times cosine x is, right, numerator times numerator, cosine x, and denominator times denominator, cosine x times no denominator is cosine x. Okay, I'm going to, maybe just so we know where these are coming from, that is that multiplication. And what about the next one? 1 times cosine x times sine squared x is what? One times cosine x times sine squared x is? That's okay. Follow here. 1 times cosine x times sine squared x is? Well, we're just doing 1 times it. What's 1 times anything? 1. So cos x times sine squared x. And what's going to be the denominator? Cosine of x. Okay, very good. Now, can we cancel anything? Yeah, what cancels? Okay, in the first one, we can definitely cancel cos x with cos x. What about over here? Okay. Now, what is cos x divided by cos x? It doesn't just disappear. What is it? Something divided by itself is 1. That's the only thing you're missing, Alondra. And then over here, the cos x is cancel, leaving us with? Yeah, very good. What's it leave us with? Sine squared x. Now, you may have gotten it a different way. Like Avery, that's a different order than you did things in, right? But same answer? Okay, good. And I would say that satisfies our usual rule, right? We've got it down just to sine. Okay, what about over here? Let's work with the right side. What would you put here? Cos x over secant x. How would you adjust that next? Flip secant up, and when we do, it's going to become cos. Okay, so that will give us what? You said it? It'll give us the cosine of x squared. Now, wait a minute. This is down to cos, this is down to sine, and they're different. What does this have to do with the Pythagorean identity? Because the Pythagorean identity told us that sine squared plus cos squared have to equal. Well, let's keep in mind then, if I wanted to rearrange this to solve this for sine squared theta, what would I do? I'd have to get rid of cos squared theta, right? How do you get rid of something when you're adding? What's the opposite of adding cos squared theta? I'd have to subtract it, right? And if I did that to one side, I'd have to do it to the other side. And that leaves me with these two identities. Sine squared theta must be 1 minus cos squared theta. Cos squared theta must be 1 minus sine squared theta. Does that make sense? It's just this same statement rearranged. So, what do we know down here? Oh, for goodness sakes. I should have zoomed out. We have 1 minus sine squared theta. Well, what does 1 minus sine squared theta equal? Yeah, this equals cos squared x. Because, and I'm going to put a little reason why. Because cos squared theta plus sine squared theta equals 1. And so if I want to, I can solve this for cos squared theta. I can subtract sine squared theta here, do the same there, and say, therefore, cos squared theta equals 1 minus sine squared theta. And the nice thing is this. When I give you your sheet of identities, I won't just give you the main one. I'll give you these two as well. Like I will tell you this, and I will tell you that sine squared theta equals 1 minus cos squared theta. So altogether now you have 8 identities. Don't worry, there's only 2 more. And we'll learn those in a few days, next week. Next week we'll learn those. Oh, next year you'll learn like 10 more. Can I say, when people do the old, when am I ever going to use this? I can proudly and definitively say, you will never use this.
No!
This will never come, because some things we learn for the sake and beauty of knowledge and learning. That's why we're learning it. Listen, we are learning this because it is something that can be done with math. It teaches you mad algebra skills. I cannot think of another topic that makes you use your algebra skills as much as this does, right? It really... In math? No, absolutely not. Because the more complex these get, the more crazy the algebra have to do gets. Maybe physics. Physics involves a lot of algebraic rearrangement. But in math, it gives you great algebra skills, which will make you a better physicist. It'll make you a better chemist. And it also is the puzzly, the tricky. How do we end anything like this?
With here.
We can say, therefore, the left side of this equation is the same as the right side of the equation, which is what we were trying to show. QED. So that is the Pythagorean identities. Over the next few days, we'll do some practice with these, but tomorrow's lesson is actually going to go back. We're going to talk about functions. We're going to spend some time talking about modeling and building of functions. Yeah. I'm assuming you're asking for a test? So we do. That took a lot longer than I expected. I get distracted, I'm sorry. I get a little sidetracked. Question about this then? You can stick around after if you want. You can stick around today. No problem. Tomorrow before, tomorrow at lunch, tomorrow after. Okay, any of the above.
You can definitely say that is one right now.
Have you ever seen these experiments where they? Has anyone taken bio? Have you you've taken 11 bio but not 12? Well, you wouldn't have learned about this then yet. But in gene expression, well, actually you have. So do you learn about sex cells in grade 11?
Grade 10 too.
Yeah, but specifically, so you know the idea that basically when implantation happens, you still have one cell, and that divides into 2, divides into 4, divides into 8, so on and so forth. That as early as like that second division, where you have 4 cells, already those have different futures. So one of those cells will be the parent of all of your bone cells. And all of your bone cells will only come from that one. As early as the second division, you're only 4 cells. And one of those will eventually become all your skin cells and blood cells. They have common.
Yeah,
One of them will become all of your nervous cells. But there's a crazy thing they can do, where they will take like a pig. And the way, how do they learn this, you wonder? Well, one of the things they can do is they take one of those 4 cells in a pig, and they implant another gene. They put a plasmid vector in that has a gene, and the one they use that's brilliant is something called GFP, green fluorescent protein. They take it out of jellyfish that live in the bottom of the ocean that glow a beautiful green color, and they'll put it in one of those 4 cells. What that means is that all the cells in the pig's body that eventually come from that cell will glow green, and all the cells that don't won't. And so you actually get these pigs that run around, and certain tissues, like the ones, if they figure out which of those cells will become mucous membranes, right? So the nostrils and the inner lining of the mouth and the inner lining of the anus and intestines and things like that, all of those cells will fluoresce green, and the rest of the pig does not. And they use that as a marker to figure out which portions of the animal came from which of those original cells, and they can figure out which cells are histologically related to one another, which is fascinating. Yeah, exactly. So that's what your dog made me do.
Dana, when they invent time travel.
I don't know any finger puppets. Does anyone know any finger puppets? Maybe like the bird or like I don't.
You can take
Oh well, come on, get in here.
Come on, Dana.
You got this, Dana.
May I? I want to beat it now.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Just you feed it and then you ran to your wife. How long?
This will be good. This is time I could be spending, marking, but instead I'll be.
Well, then your wife doesn't
Say bye, Linda.
Oh, have a wonderful day.
He doesn't care.
Get out of my house.
This isn't your house.
Give it.
No, it's really not. If it is, that actually makes it far more depressing.
What's depressing? I like the job. Wait, you've never slept at work? I've slept.
No, I actually have
No, I
slept at
slept at work.
I spent 15 hours there before, but I've never slept there.
We had a wake up on.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, you have to be here for a week.
We're not doing it.
Next year, maybe?
Maybe next.
No.
They don't think enough teachers will help us.
Yeah.
I would do it.
nice of kids.
No one likes
don't.
From 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. we had to stay up. And at 2 in the morning we got ice cream.
Well, that's a good deal. Have a wonderful day, guys. Be kind to one another. Don't do anything Dana wouldn't do. All right, I have to call my dentist's office.